Planet X TV.
Planet X, chilling beautiful San Diego today, in at Sunset Cliffs. My special guest, ADRIAN Cenni. What's happening, buddy?
Nothing. Thanks for having me. This is a real beautiful place you have here.
Only here on Planet X.
I was just growing up in a surf town, very similar to San Diego here, and just going to the beach and playing sports and having a good time.
Loving it. Sounds super simple, but probably not at all. You got the idea of extreme sports. Can you tell me about that? Where'd that come from?
You know, I don't know. I can say that when I was a young kid, I lived on a very steep hill, and I had this thing called a ball racer. And it was basically just a go-kart with steel wheels, and I just would take it up and go up and down this super steep hill that nobody else could go down. And I guess maybe that's how it got into me. I'm not exactly sure, but it could have been that I felt like my childhood was super boring, so I need to make up for that by just going hard as often as possible.
I love it. You definitely don't get that answer, you guys. He's into some serious stuff, off-road racing, extreme sports, and they're seriously an undertaking. Can you get into the inside scoop on those sports for me?
Yeah, so off-road racing is, it's been around for a while. It's a fantastic sport. It's so versatile in what it can do. It's something that I chose to do because I went and tried a bunch of different auto racing forms. I went, open wheel, prototype Le Mans, and then when I started jumping around in these trucks in the off-road racing, it was like this extra dimension that I was like, oh, this is it. I'm good. So I got my start with this well-known racer Walker Evans, and he had a Pro 4, which is a four-wheel drive. We went out to Glen Helen. And he said, jump in it, go around and see what you think. So I was jumping around. I right away rolled the truck. He walked over. Yeah, he walked over. He's like, is everything fine? I'm like, yeah, I'm really bummed I rolled the truck. I'm sorry. He's like, no, you're fine. Just go. I'm like, what? We're not talking 10,000 or 20,000 in damage, and we got to take it back to the pits. Those trucks are sturdy. You just get up and go. So I was like, wow, this is really for me.
Awesome. Bring over the tractor. Let's flip him over and keep going. I love it. That's awesome.
Planet X TV.
The brightest stars in the galaxy are on Planet X.
Only here. Planet X TV.
There's an event just south of us, Ensenada, Mexico. Can you tell me about the event?
Yeah, Ensenada, Mexico, I really enjoy being down in Mexico. The fans are great. There's such a rich history there with the Baja 1000 and the Baja 500. So you've got a huge fan base. They're all into the off-road racers, and a lot of the people that I race against also race in the Baja racing. So it's a very easy transition. And we worked on this barrel roll. It's basically taking a Baja-style truck and spinning it in the air, 4,500-pound truck, spinning it in the air and landing it on the ground. Nobody's ever done that before. Yeah, we worked on that for 4 years, and we decided to roll it out down at Ensenada, and it was really well received. We had thousands of fans just around the wash. We did it down in the wash right at the beginning of the Baja 1000, and it worked out great. So I got very fond memories down in Ensenada, as well as some of the other stunts I do. I often base it out of Ensenada or Estero Beach. Just because it's so easy to be able to do, basically extreme things without having to go through the crazy amount of red tape to be able to do it.
Yeah, love Mexico. We certainly love the flexibility that Mexico has. Keep it that way, please. We got our border right here, and they definitely have all the red lines up for us. So can you tell me about what preparing that goes into all of that? There's got to be an extreme amount of preparation, a team, anything about that?
Yeah, so having an off-road racing program for 20 years has really helped show me how to build up towards making, let's say, whatever type of extreme project you want to undertake. You can make it happen, but it's got to start with mechanics, engineers, consultants, a plan, different inventions. You all have to bring them together. And so off-road racing really has helped make that happen for me because of the things I've learned over the years. So it's not only something I do for competition and also for I guess it's enjoyment.
Yeah.
But it's also helped to, I guess you could say, spawn the ability to be able to get into other automotive stunts, and even my biggest project, which is non-automotive, but there's a lot of similarities that translate into going off and trying other projects.
Absolutely. Sounds like a whole lot of preparation. Definitely knows what he's talking about, you guys. Adrian's the man over here. Big in stunts, big in business. You guys might not know this, but where did the staffing company come from? Where did that idea start? That's definitely extreme. If I ever need a job, I'm going to hit you up. But can you tell me about that one?
Well, I wouldn't say having a recruiting company is extreme, but it is a successful company, which is great. I mean, we've got on any given year we pay over 30,000 people money, which is fantastic. So we're really helping to drive the economy. We're really providing jobs for people that need jobs, which is it's really gratifying to actually have a successful business that is a positive business rather than having it be something along the lines of, let's say, the finance, where you have to kind of take it away from somebody. In this case, we're creating work. We're really bringing people together with jobs. I initially got into it because it wasn't expensive to get into, and I was having trouble getting into racing at the level that I wanted to get into. So I was working a regular job in New York, just like doing trade operations for a mutual fund company, and I was like, I'm not making enough money. I've got to do something. And I'm actually into baking.
Okay. So baking, huh? I wouldn't have guessed that.
So I was going to open up a wholesale bakery. I was like, because it seemed like the bakers were doing really well. They had like Ferraris and they had a bunch of money. So I was like, yeah, that'd be good for going racing. So I was like, I got to do a bakery. Well, when you looked into it, it's actually really expensive to get into baking, and so I looked into recruiting, and recruiting was at the time was actually cheap to get into. You just really needed a fax machine and a phone,
and some brain power,
and willingness to call, and that's where it got started. And this was at a time right before, the economy really took off, or right while the economy took off. So even if you didn't know what you're doing, you really had some momentum that you could work with. And then when we went into a recession, by that time we'd figured out what we're doing. Good. So we'd built up enough that when we went into the recession, and then other companies started failing, we would swoop in and help them out. And then in exchange for them joining with my company, ADRIAN, they would get to continue on and figure out how to kind of get through those rough times. So when times were good, we would just work on finding people jobs, and then when times were bad, we would work on consolidating companies that were struggling, so that through economies of scale and through just being rigorous with the fundamentals of running a sound business, we would grow. So we just continued to grow regardless of the economy.
Keeps growing. This guy's got some serious brain power, viewers.
Planet X TV.
The brightest stars in the galaxy are on Planet X.
Only here. Planet X TV.
Speaking about viewers, if the viewers wanted to get a gig with Atrium, how would that go about?
I mean, you can just call any one of the Atrium offices and just see if they have the type of positions that maybe fit your background, and then shoot them over a resume, and then one of the counselors will give you a call and speak to you about some of the opportunities Atrium may have.
Love it, you guys. Go check them out. Atrium, don't miss it out, your opportunity. It sounds like they're doing pretty well. They stay in recessions, they keep it going, make companies much bigger. So you did a wild stunt, very similar to sky surfing. I want to know all about that one. What's up?
So in doing these projects, you come across directors and producers, and one of those, there was a friend of mine named Cameron Manwaring, and so he had this idea, because he's been flying around, and he's like, I wonder if you could actually like snowboard on the clouds, okay. and what that involved. So fast forward, a lot of money and a lot of planning later, we were up in the clouds, looking to it's really create a visual piece more than it is a how do I explain this? So in order to really get the pictures that you need to appear like you're snowboarding on the clouds, because the clouds, here's a little secret: the clouds actually don't have density.
Yeah.
It's essentially water vapor, right?
Yeah.
Condensed water vapor.
Been through a few of them.
Yeah, so you're up there, and so you really need 3 helicopters. Wow. And it's really a coordination, like a director's dream, because it's a coordination between 3 helicopters, and it's very difficult because you're in the clouds, so it's not like you have visibility.
No.
So you need a tow helicopter,
Okay.
which is going to, and then the rider hangs a couple hundred feet below that, doing 80 miles an hour, strapped to a snowboard. So the tow helicopter cannot see what's going on because your stunt rider is like probably a couple hundred feet, below you and 100 feet behind you. So you're pulling this. Then you've got the shoot helicopter, and the shoot helicopter really has to focus on the edge of the cloud and where the rider is at.
Sure, make it look like surfing.
Yeah, and then the director's helicopter needs to actually be the one who's saying to the tow helicopter, go up, go down, go up, go down. Right. So it's like the snowboarder is really along for the ride, literally, and the whole beauty of the piece is how the director makes it all work, and it actually is very difficult, and it's like it takes time. So, we were at it, and there was a lot of false starts, because you'll gather everybody up. You'll say, okay, the clouds are coming in, everything's cool, and so you'll gather up everybody, and you take the whole crew down to, in this case, Mexico, and then you get there and there's no clouds, so you're just like looking up at the sky for days. Yeah. Or the clouds are too high, or they're off to the one way too much, or they're not dense enough. So it's like that. It was like, yeah, it was a really interesting piece to do, and it was very difficult.
It sounds like a whole lot of coordination going on, you guys. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that with us, Adrian.
Yeah, I wanted to give one little tidbit about
Please.
Being up in the clouds. This is something that most people don't know. The clouds, you can actually taste the clouds.
You can taste it. What does it taste like?
Different things. So let's say somebody had a fire, and you're up there and you're in the cloud, and you go into it and you're like, oh yeah, somebody's been burning something down there. or you up there and you taste. No, that's the ocean. So you actually know where the clouds are coming from. That was something that was super interesting that you don't think about, but yeah, the clouds have taste.
I would never ever guess that, you guys. In a million years, clouds are gonna be tasting stuff. I wonder if it was above an orange field, they taste like orange. What do you think?
I would say that's a stretch. I'd say that's a stretch on that one.
No citrus, but I love the ocean. Definitely don't like the smoke, but down in Mexico, we might know what that smoke tastes like.
Planet X TV.
The brightest stars in the galaxy are on Planet X.
Only here. Planet X TV.
So we now want to talk about the latest and greatest adventures coming up. The main man, something about above us, jumping from space with the stars. Tell me more, please, all of us.
So there hasn't been any innovation in freefall technology in 200 years, nothing since the parachute. For the last, up until today, anything that falls out of the sky that you don't want to crash to the ground needs a parachute.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about anything that's motorized. I'm talking about non-motorized. So, an object or person, whatever falling out of the sky. And the concept I came up with is human in a beach ball. Keeps it simple. If you take a beach ball and you whack it up in the air, it comes down slower than if you take a basketball and throw it up in the air,
yes,
right?
Sir.
So that's the idea. And we've been working on it now. 3 different balls later. It works, and it uses a technology which has been around for a while, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, so now we're working on going higher and higher, getting ready to basically go, I wouldn't say into almost outer space, because you don't want to blow away, but we're certainly going to be, going after the free fall record for human free fall record. And we'll be able to, easily eclipse that.
Any projections when and where and how the bubble? Tell me about the bubble. I want to know so much more right now.
So it's It's I mean it's amazing. It has a pressurized exoskeleton,
Okay.
but then it's wrapped in a clear skin, so you have vistas. You can see above you, below you, everything. It's big. So if you put a human in a beach ball, it's got to be big, because when you're coming down and you're not going to use a parachute, you're going to land on the ground, no parachute. So you've got to use the actual bubble itself as your shock absorber. So it needs to be able to be your craft. It needs to be your landing equipment. It needs to be your life support equipment. It needs to be everything. So I mean, it took a long time. It took 3 different versions to get one that works, and we've tried it from its maximum velocity, which is roughly around. I mean, it's terminal velocity. Sorry, which is the speed at which it's going to hit the ground, and the speed at which it's going to hit the ground is going to be the same, no matter if you go 50 miles up or if you go to its terminal velocity, which in this case is around 150 feet.
Okay. That's max speed there.
Max speed, because again, we're not going to be hitting the ground at 140 miles an hour. We're going to be hitting the ground under 40 miles an hour.
That's insane.
In this rigid exoskeleton structure, which when it hits the ground buckles and then pops right back, and it bounces off the ground and rolls to a stop, and you just walk right out.
I pray to everybody and everywhere that he's just gonna walk on out of that. I mean, so we're not talking like the human soccer ball in the bubble type of thing. We're talking, how big is this thing? Are we talking like 50, 100 feet bubble, or you got a big smack?
It's big. It's big. It's a good 30 feet high.
Woo!
Yeah, 30 feet. It's I guess you can say diameter. It's kind of roundish. So it has some features to it which we want it to remain upright.
Yeah.
I don't know if some of the things from so Red Bull Stratus did a drop with Felix Baumgartner was the guy, and he was tumbling. Yeah, so the nature, and you can see right when he steps out of the capsule that there's going to be issues, because he's not weighted at the bottom. He's centrally weighted. He has his life support is up high, and then he steps. So actually, when you're in a weightless environment and you make any motion, that motion continues. So when you step off, now you're creating a forward motion. So that's already going to start something. Then you're also not weighted at the bottom, you're weighted high. So that's going to also start a tumble. So the idea when you're up there is to not tumble. So you've got to have a clean release. It's got to be properly engineered, properly designed, and so that you just fall straight. And of course, even if something happens and you start seeing jet streams of, let's say, 200-300 miles an hour, that's going to jostle you about.
Yeah.
You got to be able to handle that. So
intense.
So it is intense. Where we're at with it is we're now going higher and higher and higher.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm hoping to unveil it within the next year.
That is epic, viewers. Right here on Planet X. You heard it from Adrian. That's awesome. Adrian, right here on Planet X. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you soon, buddy.
Planet X TV.
The brightest stars in the galaxy are on Planet X.
Only here. Planet X TV.
All right, Planet X, I got one more question, and I got the crew to back me on this one. We challenge you to bubble soccer. What you say?
100%. Let me get my race crew. We'll come back. We'll kick everybody's ass.
Oh, you guys hear that? Game on, Planet X. That's Adrian. We'll see you guys soon.
You are watching Planet X. You will eat, sleep, and breathe. Planet X.
Planet X TV.
Relax, never fighting the current.
brightest stars in the galaxy are on Planet X.